Welcome to the Unedited Podcast, a podcast featuring real conversations about real life where we dig deeper into the weekend message as well as answering your questions on faith, culture, and life. My name is Todd, aka the Bald Eagle, and I'll show you something in a second. And PJ is no longer with us.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
I know. It sounds like I just said something terrible happened to him. But we upgraded. That's what we did. We have Miss Kelly Garshay with us today. Mrs. Yeah, that's true. Well, is it when you say the first name, does it still?
I don't know.
Like if you say first name, I think you can say like,
I mean, it's not
Miss
1954.
Kelly.
I don't know these answers.
Oh, that's true. Okay, then we just have Kelly Garshay with us
sure
today.
Do.
Kelly, tell everybody, first of all, tell everyone how long you've been at Heights Church.
Are you ready?
Because this is crazy.
Drum roll, please. 27 years.
27 years. That's incredible. You've seen a lot of change then at Heights.
An outrageous amount of change.
And you're still here.
Oh, yeah. So Kip and I, we came here in 1998. And when we found the Heights, it was, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Prescott Heights
Baptist Church or something. Yeah, First Baptist or something like that.
Like you could barely fit it on the line on the chip, you know, when you're writing out.
It was like one of those like sports where their last name is so long, it goes like all the way around their back.
Exactly.
It was like Prescott Heights something, First Baptist.
I'm killing it. But essentially, we came back when it was at the current Cornerstone preschool building right there in the middle of the neighborhood on Rosser.
Okay.
Rosser and Ruth, which turns into Demers. Prescott problems there. But when we started, that's where the church was. There was like maybe 40, 60 people.
Wow.
And like one kid. And we were like
that is
newly married.
Wild.
And we were like, looks like we're going to have some kids and get this place.
you had to like start the kids ministry with just having children. So
yes, exactly.
I mean, I'm glad you did your part.
Yeah. And at the time it was awesome because we had all of these really willing and ready people who wanted to grow the church. And so when we showed up, this young couple wanting to start a family, they were like, let us help you. We will do everything.
Oh, nice.
And like, I mean, weekly, invites for dinner and baby showers when the time came. I mean, they were the best.
That's awesome. Good enough to make you stick around for 27 years.
Exactly.
So
Community
that is good.
That.
I love that. Tell everyone what you do at Heights. Hopefully, if they were at Heights the last couple weeks in a row, actually, they would have seen you leading worship.
Facts.
So,
I've been doing that since we arrived. I mean, within a few weeks, they were like, okay, let's get you up there. You know, it was
that's
like
crazy.
No screening. We're like, we need help. Get up.
Yeah. No, you were telling before the cameras started rolling, you're like, if there's anything that comes up on the worship team, you're like, hey, listen, I've been doing worship here since before you were born.
It's
true. That's a mic drop moment for you. You're like, yo.
I'm like, honey,
you got nothing to say.
You're 20. So I was already an adult singing on this team when you were born.
That's so good. That is mic drop moment for you right there. And so not just worship, you guys have been involved in so many different areas of Heights.
Yeah.
Your husband is involved.
Well,
what
youth
else?
Ministry for both of us.
Okay.
He's been on and off the finance and elder team just on its various rotations, how that works. And then leading our life group for 16 years. We were doing some math there too recently with our group. We're like, well, when did you come in? Because that's when we finally all kind of solidified.
Yeah.
And I said, well, weren't we doing it before that? He goes, well, yeah, but it was called Bible study.
So there's even more. Yeah. That's
so
crazy.
It's like 16 years of life group leading, but like we just go way back. And I don't know, there's something about our relationship that we stepped into wanting to be like a faithful couple. So that not only means attending church and like serving at church, but like doing it consistently and not just leaving if we don't like the color of the chairs or whatever random thing. So good.
So good. I mean, we talked about what the church being a family a couple of weeks ago, and families aren't perfect. And so it means being perseverant in that. And so that's just super cool to hear you guys have done that. Recently though, you just got back from a trip to the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
I'm stoked because I'm going and taking high schoolers to the Dominican in a couple of months. And you got to go down and meet with Casa Misionera students that we've worked with before and all that. But tell us, how was the trip? Was it amazing?
The trip was so multifaceted. It was like all these different things that were happening. Since we were connected with the Casa kids, they're 18 to 22, and they were sort of leading us to go out into the neighborhoods and deliver food and packages with hygiene and toys for some kids and things like that. Even dresses. I think a whole group made those pillowcase dresses. So we were handing out all this stuff, and then in that time, we would sit with them, pray with them. They would invite us into their homes, and inviting them to say, like, do you want to put your trust in the Jesus that sent someone from who knows where, right? Arizona, to come and pray with you, and that we love him and this is what he's done in our life. And then, here's what he can do for you. Not only does he provide for us, but he has salvation in mind for each person. And we literally saw, like, in all the places, because that wasn't the only thing we did, but we also went to schools. And I mean, I think that the count is somewhere around 30 people accepted the Lord.
Wow.
Like literally cheering in heaven over 30 people.
That is incredible. That is
outrageous.
That is proof that God can work through anything, because I heard that your team lead was Pastor Bob, and that in itself is like a miracle.
Exactly.
That he could lead a team to do anything good.
Well, we had
so
Amber.
Great.
We had Amber too.
Okay, there you go. That changes. That makes more sense to me as to why anything good would happen on that trip. That's awesome. Well, super glad that you were with us today. Thank you for joining us and giving us the upgrade that we needed with John on his sabbatical for the next couple of months. We are going to have different people rotate in and out of that seat. And so you'll see different people here. But like always, thank all of you as our listeners and viewers for being with us, for being a part of this journey with us. It is only because of you that we even have this show. So thank you guys. Please rate and review, because then it helps get the word out. And I love reading 5-star reviews.
5-star reviews is what we live for, right?
Yeah, that's what we live for. That's what it's all about.
That's what it sounds like on the podcast.
That's what it's all about. That's what we care about. We also live for some gifts. And this is one of the coolest things that we've been given on the pod. And I love this right now. There's a man in the church that came up and he gave me this right here. Isn't this incredible? This is amazing. He actually worked at Target and was the bald eagle. That was his nickname. So
I was hanging with that guy before he gave it to you.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was hilarious because I walk up, I'm trying to make sure that I get here at the right time to show up for this whole deal. And he goes, I'm waiting for Todd. And I said, okay, so this is the line, making a joke. And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's a pretty good place to stand, because he was like up against the wall. I was like, it's a lot less creepy than just actually standing in line. He's like, am I being creepy? And so we start going into this banter. It was just pretty funny. And he's like, yeah, I got a gift for him. I found it in my car last week or whenever. He's like, I've been waiting to give it to him.
It's incredible.
It's pretty great.
I'm going to wear it. Like,
it's so
I got to make
shocking.
sure it's like seen by everyone.
Front and center.
Is this good? Yeah. Well, for the listeners, you need to know this is a name tag. Yeah. Sorry. The beard was like, hey, if you're listening, you have no clue what's happening right now. So somebody who worked at Target came and their nickname was the Bald Eagle. So they have a Target name tag that says the Bald Eagle on it.
It is engraved.
It's like the real deal. And gave it to me. And as soon as he gave it to me after church yesterday, I put it on and wore it the rest of the day.
Yes.
I kid you not. And I was going over to Pastor Ben's house for like later in the afternoon. And so we had to stop by Walmart to get stuff. And I was wearing my Target name tag in Walmart. And my wife was like, you're embarrassing me. And I was like, what? This is incredible. Why is this embarrassing? But yeah.
Amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Like a kid at show and tell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I'll probably be wearing it a lot too. I might even wear it this weekend at church. You'll see me. But okay, we do have some questions that we need to get into.
Let's do it.
The people have asked. The first question we got in from a listener, knowing that you were going to be on the show, is this: what exactly does a life coach do, and how do you choose this career path?
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like life coaching is confusing because you have like Tony Robbins and then Mel Robbins. I kind of feel like I need to change my name to Kel Robbins.
Oh, that's good.
Kel Robbins, adding Jesus to it. Because here's the thing. I realize now, like, a coach technically doesn't do what it is that you see them doing. A coach is a person who helps you like find a way from A to B. Like if you have a change that you'd like to make, B is the change and A is where you are now. So essentially, we would sit down and have a conversation and ask you enough questions to get like, what is the plan? Like if I could change something up here in my brain that would get me from A to B, like I could stop believing that I don't deserve that job or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you get from A to B and like go, well, what is it about you that you don't think you deserve that? And so you kind of unpack it and sort of reverse engineer it. Even sometimes it kind of depends on each person to get the thing out of the way, to unstuck you.
So you're a professional question asker.
Yes. And as a matter of fact,
that's
like,
good.
I always come up with like 5 right out the gate.
That's good. Yeah. And well, I think we need that because sometimes we don't know what we want and we have to talk it out, but we don't even know the right questions to ask ourselves. So yeah, that's super important. How did you get into that, or why did you choose doing that?
So honestly, I've been an encourager naturally through my spiritual gift. And I've known that about myself since, 20 something years ago when I started doing youth ministry and like figuring out through all the seminars and the youth conferences we would go to, and then they would give you a personality test. And I was like, holy moly, I'm obsessed with this stuff. And so I figured out a lot about myself, which then helped me figure out what I could do best with my skills. And being an encourager is like, if I can get someone from A to B, that is what encouragement is. It's like helping you keep going. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
My sister will go, how does one go on? When things just get horrid and you're just like trying to figure out how to keep going in life. And I'm like going, you can do this. We can do it together. Let's sit down and have the conversation. What's bugging you?
Oh, I love that. That's good. Everybody needs an encourager in their life. So that is super good. Well, we do have some questions coming in that I think some encouragement in their life would be very helpful for them. First question comes in from Tony. Tony asks this. He says, I have a question about forgiveness and boundaries. Already, we know this is going to be a big one. This is such a big one in so many lives.
Yeah.
But he says this. He says, my parents are alcoholics. And a few years ago, we had a huge falling out. My sister and I confronted them about their behavior, but they didn't listen. Since then, we've had very little contact with them. Last year, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and went through treatment. She is now cancer-free, but during that time, I really struggled with feelings of guilt because of the boundaries I had in place. My question is, how do I truly forgive and leave room for reconciliation even when I'm unsure if that will ever happen? I have set the boundary that they need to seek help before any kind of regular communication can resume. I would appreciate any wisdom or guidance on how to move forward.
Ooh.
Yeah, just a light one out of the gate for you here.
Okay. So relationships are a huge place where people get stuck. And I think, of course, like you talk about like, oh, you just got to forgive people and whatever, but the how is really hard.
Right.
And certainly there's lots of avenues that you need to go through to find that like proper equation for you. Like maybe you have to go to therapy. Maybe you just need another trusted source that is a family member or a friend who can listen and not make it about themselves when you tell them a story or whatever kind of thing. But then also the spiritual side of things and then the stuck part of things. So I feel like there's a huge like equation that goes on in order to find the forgiveness part. But the first thing I heard was like, we confronted them and that like nothing happened. And what I know about trying to coach people, and people come to me and ask for coaching, but they only change when they want to, and they only change when they can. Like sometimes there's something much bigger going on. And so if they come to me and they're like, hey, I want to change this, and then like it's not going anywhere, then I'll say, hey, it looks like there's something else going on here. You might need to seek out therapy, or you might need to seek out another avenue to try to figure out what's going on, but coaching isn't for you. So in a way, I heard like a feeling of like parenting, in that they wanted to parent their parents, but adults don't change unless they want to, and I guess if they can. And so that's tough to know that they like did not respond at all, because then there's new feelings that come along like right after that. You're like, wow, we don't matter, enough to change for, or something like that. But the next thing is like, well, he's got this strong boundary, and then he's got regrets about the boundaries. And I think that something I hear a lot is like people making up rules, and those rules are boundaries, like, but sometimes they're too strong or they're too like unmoving. Like you can change the boundary. And I think that what I hear is that if you have a part of you that regrets, right? We use this language of like, part of me regrets it, and part of me still has to hold on to that because principle, and because of the decision, and because of the hurt, and because of all the things. And so, but this one part of you is like, but I still want something from that relationship. And so I hear that maybe the boundary could shift, but then you have to be able to trust yourself to handle what happens if you change the boundary and you still are getting hurt or disrespected or. Yeah.
And that seems like, without knowing, we had enough context to see a little bit, but not, more than that, knowing maybe how they act when they're drinking or whatever, that could be harmful for his kids or anything like that. I know that there's so much more that goes on with this. I will just speak to the forgiveness piece of it. How do I truly forgive? That is not dependent on them. Like that's dependent
on
the parents.
Right.
That's dependent on you as the person to forgive. And how they respond isn't a qualification of the forgiveness. You know what I mean? It's not like, man, I forgave, but they didn't change. Therefore, my forgiveness wasn't good enough. So forgiving them, I think, is you releasing yourself from them and from the hurt that they've caused you in the past. The reconciliation piece moving forward, that's a different conversation.
Totally.
So I think first, I'll just say to the forgiveness piece, that is something that you can release. That's between you and God. Ultimately, hey, I'm releasing them from the pain that they've caused me, from the pain that they're causing my children. And it's not a one and done.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things about forgiveness is we think like, I already forgave him. Now I'm not going to have those feelings again. Every time that his kids aren't loved in the way that he feels like they should be from their grandparents, it's going to bubble up of like the frustration and the anger. And they're like, I think it's a constant reminder, man, I've chose to forgive them and I need to remind myself that I've chose to forgive and release from that.
It's constant changing. But what I'm thinking is like neurologically, you've had a pattern of being frustrated or hurt or whatever the word is that fits that best. And you've thought that so many times that it's like creates a groove, almost like a dirt road when it gets all washboardy. And so now that is the road that you're taking in your neurological pathways. So when you start a new one and say, okay, I'm going to forgive them and I forgave them today. Well, it's like a little tiny plant. Oh, so many metaphors. You're welcome. It's a little tiny seedling. We're going right into spring. It's bringing up so many failed gardening memories. And you, that first seedling, when it pops up out of the dirt, it's so tiny and it's so fragile that literally one day of missing the watering, having it in too much sun or not enough anything, it just dies immediately.
That's good.
Or even if you like touch the dirt too closely, it literally will destroy the growth that new thought.
Yeah.
We're now putting it back into the neuroscience part, like that you just have a new thought and it's like a little tiny seedling and you've got to actually rethink it every day. Yeah. And you have to go back to it every time it comes up in order to nurture it to full growth.
That's good. That's such a good picture for that. So that the forgiveness piece that, while not easy, that's the simplistic answer to a complex thing there.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Reconciliation piece, what would you say to trying to seek reconciliation there? I know there's a lot of wisdom that needs to be had in how to seek it with somebody who could be dangerous to themselves or others who are under the influence, So what would you say there?
So when I think about like him changing the boundary, right? And like figuring out a way to actually have that interaction with them again for that part that wants it, like that's going to take a lot of nuance. Like he needs to figure out that for himself and for his sister, right? Like this is a full family experience. So maybe that was a pact they made together. Like we have so many questions that I would ask.
Yeah, you got questions. You're a professional question asker.
Yes, I am. So then when it comes down to like not knowing those answers to the questions that, would give me the context that I need, it basically puts me in a position of saying, well, when it comes to a relationship that feels hard, broken, messed up, or even just bothering you, confusing you, frustrating you, this is what I do. I put my relationship with them on pause. There's plenty of different instances where this happens. It's like if something came to you, you didn't like it, whether it was a statement or an action, whatever, I go, whoa, I didn't like that. And I allow myself to just notice it. It kind of reminds me of like captivating your thoughts and, taking it to the Lord. So I go, okay, that didn't sit right with me. I'm not going to make a decision on what that meant from them, what it means for me. But I'm going to start watching my thoughts in that area. So then as I go, okay, well, they said this and made me feel like I am completely unwanted. Wow. They are the worst. Okay, now I'm going, I feel unwanted. I'm going to reject them. So right now I'm looking at what the thoughts are instead of lashing those out and making them public.
Right.
I keep them for myself and the Lord. And he and I do this work of like, why does it matter to me if I feel unwanted? What's going on? You want me. What do I do with this when a person doesn't want me? It's a reflection of what we want with God. So I just put things on pause as far as anybody else is concerned, unless I need help. And certainly I get that with my husband, I get that with my friends, my life group. But you got to start on the inside.
Yeah, start with you first and figure out where you're at before you can move to that piece with them. Yeah.
And then as you pause and you figure out what is going on with you, then you can start to turn around and like hope for something new, because this is the encourager part of me. Wants everyone to go, relationship is really important. And this is very specifically, the most important relationship you had all the way up until you were fully grown. So a parent relationship, to lose it is a very high cost. And they had regrets just around the last few years. What if they passed away? Like, ask those hard questions. If they passed away and I didn't do the thing, reach out, have the conversations, what would I be missing?
Yeah.
And then.
So you would say, suggesting even just, not all boundaries are forever. So what type of bending, if you will? So you still had the hard boundary of, hey, you need help before I'm going to fully let you into every piece of my children's life. But we can go to dinner once a month at a specific location for a specific time.
Yeah.
Where there is no alcohol or whatever.
If you're not drinking
and and we're able to do that. So yeah. Well, Tony, hopefully that helped a little bit with that. I know there's so much there, so much to unpack with that. And we know that it's not easy. And so, kudos to you for even wrestling with this and asking the questions and going through this, because it's not an easy thing. So I do want to hop into the weekend now as well.
It was good.
The weekend is the last words of Jesus that we've been going through. And we looked at two more phrases that he said on the cross. And one of the things he said is, into your hands I commit my spirit. And what was kind of summed up in the weekend is, putting our trust in him. When he said, into your hands I commit my spirit, is really saying, hey, here's my trust. I'm giving my trust to you. Why do you think committing our spirit or putting our trust in him instead of the things of the world is such a big deal? Like, why does it matter that much?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just that the world is totally unreliable.
Right. We've all been let down by the world, right?
I mean, Google something, get an answer, start getting ads, get the equal opposite answer. Like, how are we supposed to live out there in the world without something that is constant?
Right.
And that's like my number one thing. Like, he's the only thing that's trustworthy. And what's interesting is that he, quote unquote, can change. Like, I'm going to say he can change, but he doesn't change. Certainly his characteristics and his, everything about who he is does not change, but his advice to us, his movement for us, right,
it's living and active. Yeah.
That's what I mean. And so when it comes down to it, he can give us a word that says, go do this. And then he can say, okay, now it's time to stop. Right. And he's still reliable to have our good in mind and to have, faithfulness towards us. And we ought to be returning that to him and being faithful to be led by him. So he leads us faithfully. Right.
Well, and when we put our faith and our trust, or whatever it is however you want to say it, into things, it's so one-sided. Right.
What do you mean?
Like, the thing that we are putting I'm putting my stake in my house. As long as my house is good, this is where my trust is, or whatever. Like, your house isn't loving you. You're loving your house. You know what I mean? It's not a two-way street.
It's not reciprocal.
Yeah. And like the relationship we have with God, when he's the one that it's in, is like, God loves us more than we can love him.
That's so good.
And we want to love him. I mean, that's the goal, is to give God our heart, give God our life, give God our everything. He already gave that to us, and it's not changing. So it's like, there's two sides to it. It's not like everything else that we put our faith in is really taking from us instead of wanting for us.
Whoa, okay, so, mic drop.
Mic drop. Those are hot toddy take is what we call that.
Okay, nice.
So there you go.
Where's my hot toddy?
Yeah, it's a little bald eagle take.
Okay.
There you go. That's good. But yeah, I think, for us, we put our stake in things that just don't matter so much, which kind of leads me to this idea is like, what if we already have so many things other than God that our trust is in? How do we make the switch to putting our trust in him? Like, if somebody this weekend was listening to the message and going, yes, I have that issue, but man, I'm pretty far down the road on this. Like, I've got so much invested into my house, my car, my kids, right? That's a big one, because we don't think of that as something that could become a problem. But like, how do they make that shift if they're already so into it?
Okay, so I want to ask you, but I'm also like obsessed with this answer, because I like to find the common denominator. Like, what does that thing have in common with God, or with your need that you can get from God?
Right.
So you're wearing your Target name tag that says the bald eagle, and you think it's the best thing that's ever happened to you.
It is.
And you would totally take it to show and tell.
Yes. I kind of am right now. Actually, that's kind of what this is.
This is show and tell. Yeah. So what does that give you?
Excitement, validation. Like, I feel like that it was given to me. Like I feel like
unique or
man,
special
yeah,
or
special
worthy of a gift.
I mean, this was his. He wore this at
I know.
Target at work, and
totally
so he
abandoned it
gave it to
from
me
his life to yours.
Yeah.
So in the same way that like you want to be validated, you want to be seen as something special and worthy of a gift, like you have that in Christ. Like boom, there's the common denominator. It's not about getting seen necessarily in front of people. It is in the first sense. And then if you can switch it and say, hey, guess what? I am seen. How can I look for that in my daily life? Because like when you activate your reticular activating system.
Okay, using big words.
You're welcome. It's like the thing is like when now you want a Jeep and then you start seeing Jeeps everywhere.
Right.
And then your brain is looking for that. So as you change what you're looking for, you're like, okay, I want to look for in my life ways that God shows up to show me that I'm valuable and worth a gift and whatever. So then you go, oh, I got the first parking spot. Boom. Then you go, oh my gosh, my husband made dinner tonight. And so like each time you're looking for the ways that God is showing up in the physical world to show you that you're worthy of love and validated, and then you're getting that. That's the switch.
That's good. The professional question asker is telling us we need to ask more questions.
Yes.
What is this giving me? Why am I putting my trust in this thing? And how can I find that in God? That's such a good way to make that switch. Right? Is just starting to find what that thing is giving you in God,
and then go get it from God instead.
Those other things.
Do you have anything to add?
Boom! I got nothing to add. I didn't even. My mind is blown. I still love my name tag though.
Yeah, you can.
You can't. Like,
you can, because you know what? There's fun. There's also the value of fun in your life, and like using that to spark a conversation and have relationships. Right?
That's good. Yeah, I'm sure people in Walmart wanted to ask me, why do you have a Target name tag?
It's a possibility.
Could have sparked a good conversation.
Absolutely.
You know,
leads you to the next thing.
How does Jesus' statement, so the other statement that we talked about this weekend that Jesus said on the cross, part of his final words that he said is, "It is finished." How does Jesus' statement of "it is finished" help us live our life differently? Like, it's great that he said that on the cross and we get what it means, but like in my day-to-day life, how do I live differently because it is finished?
So I think you should start.
Think I should start with that? Yeah, I think when it comes to this idea of it is finished, it's like, man, we're striving for so many things that we already have. Like one of the things I shared this weekend is like looking for my glasses, but they were still on my face. So, you know, and like, you're like, where is it? Oh, they're right here, you know?
Whoops.
And like, it's so dumb when you're like, oh, you're looking for something that you already have. But how often are we looking for something that we already have? And so I think knowing it is finished, knowing it is paid for, it is done. When it's done, then why are you still trying for it?
Seriously.
It's gone. You know, he's already done it.
Yes.
And so I think it changes our life in the things that we value. It changes our life in the thing that we like are, you know, looking for. Like we just talked about the things that we search for in things you already have in God, and reminding yourself of that. But the same thing, I think, is just this idea of like, dude, it's finished. I actually, after the message, I got to share with a young man who came up, and his friend had invited him to church. And so him and his friend both came up, and he asked, he's like, I don't really know. My friend asked me this question. And the question was, are you saved? And he's like, I don't know what that means. So can you like talk through? And he said, my understanding of church, because it was like his first time to Heights. He grew up kind of Catholic, but he said, my understanding of churches is just basically helps you with ethics. Like it's like a morality type thing. That's all it is. And so I just really got to share the gospel with him, which is this. Awesome. Like, dude, morality, you cannot reach the standard of morality that God wants. It's not possible because the standard is perfection. And so you can go to church and have behavior modification for years and years and years, and you can learn all the right morality or whatever. But at the end of the day, you still can't achieve what God has called us to. That's why we need Jesus.
Absolutely.
And so I think that plays into this idea of it is finished, is like, man, you can kill yourself striving to be right before God, but you can't. The only thing that can do that is Jesus, and he already declared it on the cross. It is finished.
Okay, so I'm literally wiggling to try to keep all my ideas.
Yeah, you keep saying it. You keep like looking at me like, are you going to stop?
Am I going to get in here?
Okay, here you go.
It's like double dutch. You try to get in and you don't know when because the ropes. Okay.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that. That's tough
stuff. I remember second grade. It was a hard time.
Okay, well, this is your chance now.
Here so hop in. Sorry. I get so excited. The fact of the matter is, like, we don't know how to receive, and it feels so like evident to me after just coming back from Dominican. So like when you're on the bus with a bunch of people and you have a snack, but you realize like, oh, no one else has a snack. And we've been out here for like hours, man. We've been out in the countryside, nowhere to go to the bathroom. You're just chugging your water bottle and you're like, I'm hungry. I got to go to the bathroom. I need everything. I need everything right now. My system is breaking down. And then you look around and you go, oh, everyone's in that same position. And you just go, you know what? There'll be enough Chex Mix to go around. And you just start saying, hey, you want some? Hey, you want some? And you pass it around and everyone's like, yes, please. No one once ever said, oh, I'm just doing gluten-free right now.
No offense to any of our gluten-free listeners and viewers.
But I think that sometimes we think that if we try a gluten-free diet, it's going to rescue us.
Right.
Unless you actually have to eat gluten-free, there's celiac, there's real things there, but the whole world is trying to poke at what will fix them right now. Right. And so we refuse things based on what we think is going to fix us. And the fact is that we're refusing things all the time. We don't need much. And so we can say, no, I don't need that. I don't want that. But my example that I brought actually back in the back room behind worship team, behind the stage at worship team yesterday was just the fact that like you can't just only breathe out all the time. You have to breathe in. And so you can give mercy to people, but then you have to receive mercy from people. And that goes for every single thing in this world. And so when it comes to being like, it is finished, if you're at a restaurant and they come to give you the bill and they say, oh, actually another couple paid for your dinner already, you wouldn't go, well, no, I'm paying it.
Right. It's already
You would
done.
just go, oh, cool. I guess we leave then.
Yeah.
And you would just receive the fact that it was paid. And so that's the same story. Like, yes, your sin is forgiven. Yes, he wants to be in relationship with you. What's the problem? Why do you keep harshing on the thing? If you can't change it and you're still living in it, that's one thing. But if you're trying to live a life that's being led by Jesus, and then something happens, camping on that for too long is not helping you live the life that moves forward.
Good. So good.
Get out of the restaurant.
What do we call the beard? What do we call it when one of our guests has a nice take on something like that?
Ooh.
What do we give them? We don't know. We got nothing.
We got to come up with something.
We got nothing. We got to give something because we got a couple.
These mics don't drop.
They don't drop. They are on a something. I don't know. The beard might fire you if you dropped his mic anyway.
Well, I would understand. It's expensive.
No, great weekend though. Super excited. We still have one more weekend of the last words coming up. This next week, and then we have Easter after that.
Yeah,
so
we're
both of those, super excited for that. We do have a couple more questions that we're going to hop into as well. Question here from Anonymous. We love it when Annie writes in. Annie asks this: I've heard the crucifixion story many times, yet it is still pretty much just an intellectual understanding of what Jesus did for us. How can I develop a truly soul-deep grasp on a spiritual level of the mystery of Jesus' sacrifice for us?
Oof. Asking for an answer to a mystery? Okay.
We got to solve it.
Okay, Annie. We understand why you're not fessing up who you are.
Right. This is a big one. It's a big one.
I think the hard part is that the answer is going to be so specific to the person. Remember my 5 questions I've got? It makes me want to say, well,
I think a lot of people can relate to this though, because if you grew up in church, I think most of the things that we experience become intellectual.
Absolutely.
You just like, oh, I've heard it before, but like truly grasping the depth of it, like that's not easy.
Like you have to experience it somehow, like the revelation of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like you always get changed when Jesus shows up and you experience him.
Yeah.
And that's, through the Spirit, that's through times of being open. I think actually that's a little bit tied to why I want to coach people. I feel like the things that are getting them stuck stop them from being open to receiving that answer or that mystery experience, like of where it goes from your head down into your spirit and into your heart. Like anybody can figure out how to describe that. You just let me know.
Right, that'd be good.
I would definitely give you a high five for that, please.
No, I think one of the things is recognizing that, like when we have just an intellectual understanding and not a deep one, like that's square one. So even asking
Literally.
this question, Annie, you're off to a
Life
good
coach
start
skills,
with that.
Noticing.
But I think another thing that we can do is just like revelation or being revealed is something that only God can do.
Totally.
So I think asking God, hey, reveal to me.
Yeah.
Hey, give me revelation on it. Like, so I think inviting the Holy Spirit into that, inviting God to show you is a good place to start with this of like, man, I kind of only know it on an intellectual level. Like, God, reveal more to me. Help me to get it, grasp it more, you know?
Dude, yeah. So I was just thinking, like, if you want something, but you never ask for it,
right?
May not get it. Probably not.
Probably not going to get it.
You know? So I just think that, like, be like a child, like, oh, I guess I should ask specifically, directly, not just like, I'm going to ask somebody, the podcast, ask the podcast. Yes, get the advice and the input, but also like turn around and go ask the source.
Yeah, like take it to the Lord, ask him. Yeah, I think of, the disciples when they went to the empty tomb. Mary Magdalene was there first. Super rad that she was the first one to see resurrected Jesus. And then that said that there's two other disciples, right? And I love the way that it was talked about in the book of John, because John wrote it and he refers to himself as the disciple that Jesus loved.
I know,
like,
right?
Bro,
he's definitely got a target name tag.
He's got his name tag. Like he thinks he's special, like whatever. And so he that's good. I like that.
You're welcome.
And so he's running and he makes it very clear that he beat Peter. Like he was faster. He's like, I ran there first, and then it says like, that he didn't go inside yet though, Peter. So Peter shows up and he sees everything and he's just like, okay, what is happening? And I've seen it. So he's seen it. And I would say that's the intellectual level, right?
Okay.
And he's like, there we are. And then then John comes into the tomb and he says he sees it and believed. And I think that's the next level of like, not just an intellectual level, but he went deeper on it. And so I think there is a like prompting for each one of us of like, yes, you invite the Holy Spirit, hey, reveal to me this. But then digging deeper, what does it look like for you to truly sit with the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus? Like that is heavy. That is hard. That is not an easy thing that sometimes we just gloss over in church. But man, sit with what that pain was like. Sit with what Jesus experienced.
Full on.
Sit with the joy of knowing that he did not stay dead. Like just all of that. I think you just focus on these things, like it goes from being the disciple that just saw it all to the one that saw it and believed.
That's really cool.
So,
being an encourager, it's like, I only really want to talk about the resurrection. That would be ideal for me.
Yeah.
I mean, all Americans maybe, but once upon a time, like the Lord was just like, hey, guess what? You can't raise from the dead unless you've died. And I was like, oh no, you wrecked me. And so, every time I hit a wall of suffering in my life, I just go, okay, this death will bring resurrection somehow. Seeds are buried and then they grow again. So I don't know how that works but I just felt like that needed to be shared.
Heck yeah, that needed to be shared. That needs to be clipped and put on social too. That David, there you go. Make a
come on.
A little timestamp. That's the one right there. That's good. Well, hopefully that answered a little bit of your question there. We do have one more question for you. And this is a question that I don't know that I have too much to offer, but this is, I think, right up your alley. When we said, hey, we got a life coach coming, they filled our the questions, which, by the way, if you would like to submit a question, this is how the commercials just flow. They just come out. All right, if you would like to submit a question, you can send an email to unedited@heightschurch.com. That is unedited@heightschurch.com. Send us an email with your question. We'd love to answer it on the show. We got a question in from Anonymous. Another Annie wrote in. And not the same Annie, a different Annie.
How do you know?
Well, because, I get the emails, but they say don't use my name. So there you go. And they say, a question for the life coach.
Woo.
That's your official title, the life coach. I'm looking to make a major career shift because I am simply not happy in my current career, but I have no idea where to even start. What advice can you give? Now you got to ask a whole bunch of questions to someone that can't answer them.
I have questions. I have so many questions. The first question, I was like, okay, well, how do you find unhappy? I'm unhappy with where I'm at now. Okay, well, is that with the actual work? Is it with the personalities you're working with? Is it with the, the finance side of it? Like they're not paying me enough or I don't, whatever. It's not enough to fund my life. But unhappy can mean a lot of different things. So the first thing is you got to discover what it is that you're unhappy about. And then craft your next choice around that. Like use that to propel you towards what you do want that would make you happier.
Yeah, if you're unhappy with the pay, then you're not going to leave to a job that pays less.
Right. You got to actually try to do the work to get to the right place, right? You know, it's like, oh, okay, I don't like working with, you know, a type of person who is, I don't know, whatever, lazy. So then you got to find what kind of job will give you that different feeling. Like, oh, if I work in a hospital, everybody's busy all the time. We're always doing something. So maybe that might be an example. But then after you've decided what it is that you want to like go towards, if you don't know what that thing is and you can kind of nail down a few things, then you kind of need to discuss like with yourself and maybe with others, like, hey, what do you see in me? What skills do I have? What kind of a person am I? What could you see me doing really good in a work setting? One of Kip's favorite things to ask when we go on vacation is like, we'll go to a resort or whatever. And if one of the people will, you know, help you get something arranged, he'll be like, what's your dream job at the resort?
Yeah.
Because they're just working whichever job works for the time, you know, whatever. But he wonders, like, is there a hierarchy of like, oh, this job is ideal? And so what that brought up in me is like, okay, well, what is it that you're going for, and what is it that you're good at? So if you realize that, like me, you're an extreme extrovert and you need to be around people, and your job is not giving you enough people, how can you get more people in your life? And then you take up pickleball. And you're playing with, you know, you're hanging out and interacting with people for a couple of hours, you know, and doing that kind of thing. But that's not your job. So you could work at the pickleball place. Also a thing I've been doing for a few years.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Dropping.
Like that is finding your values and your personality like needs and then filling it that way. So, you know, are you super organized? How can you use that to find a good job? Are you really introverted? Do you want to be like a librarian? Like that is kind of a very stereotypical thing, but you know, putting away books by yourself, doing that thing, would that fill you up? Like you have
I love
to
the supplement question that you just said though, because I think some of the problem that we have, especially with younger generations when it comes to the culture is like, well, I'm not being fulfilled as much in my job. And it's like, well, how many from our grandparents' age, like, do they work the same job for like 50 years and they realized that the job was in order to pay for their life? It was not a like, I gotta love this. So I think sometimes like just asking the question of like, well, the purpose of this job is to get the money that I need. Now, do we always want to have something that's super fulfilling? Yes. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but sometimes you just recognize like, I need money. So therefore I'm going to work a job that's not the coolest thing in the world, but I will supplement it with pickleball, or I'll supplement it with these other things that are giving me what I need in my life. So I think that's a huge point there.
Because you can't expect one thing to fulfill all the Venn diagrams of your life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, being able to be fulfilling and make you the money that you need and, you know, satisfy your needs.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, the fulfillment piece is kind of fleeting as well, you know? So it's like, you might get a new job that's really like fulfilling for 2 years and then you're back on the same train again.
Which takes me back to the common denominator thing we talked about earlier. Like if you can find the thing that you're looking for and then get it from the Lord, you don't need to get it from your job.
Right.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Boom. You tied a bow on this thing. That's good. What else would you say though? I mean, advice, it sounds like the question piece was what you would do and ask. What other questions does this person need to be asking if they're looking at making a shift like this?
Yeah. Essentially, you need to be asking, what are the driving reasons for the unhappiness? And then how many things can you fulfill by changing? And if it's even possible, right? It's so big and wide. Like, I don't know if we're talking like entry level. I don't know if we're talking like
I know,
it's so complicated.
Here,
Like, what if there's some sort of really higher up person and then they don't have as many job choices or they would have to demote themselves? There's so many questions, but like when it comes down to it, it's like you got to find how the puzzle fits together for you. What are you unhappy about? Can you change that in your current job? Like, can you get that from somewhere else and still stay here? Or what is it that you need to change, and then go find it and figure out what the piece is that's going to matter most. Because I feel like that's it. Like, I was at home lonely. COVID was just brutal on my extrovert self. And I said, I got to get around people. So I started working part-time at Aspire and then part-time doing the life coaching so that I could get my wiggles out. Like, I needed more people in my face, which sounds so weird to the introverts. I'm really sorry.
Right. The introverts are like, oh, that sounds terrible.
Yes. But like, I have 150 people asking me for something every day. And
you love that.
I'm literally like, let's go.
Yeah,
let's do it again. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I know. Well, many people don't know this about PJ. Pastor John is an introvert. And so things like Sunday church for him is like draining,
Yeah.
Where I am an extrovert. So for me, I'm like, I love that. My wife is even more of an extrovert to where, she gets energy from being around people.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll come home. She's a youth leader. So she'll come home on a Wednesday night after youth group.
Sleep.
Oh my gosh, she won't go to bed for so long because
Same.
she's like, I peopled too hard. I get so much energy. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm out because But anyway, yeah. So
it's so
good.
True.
So many questions there to ask. And if any of our listeners have made it this far, they've made it to the end of the podcast club.
Oh, snap.
It's
Did you know
turn. It's your shot.
I'm part
You're
of the
part
end
of the club too.
I am regularly.
Okay, so you know what happens right now.
It's one of my favorite things.
Okay, are you up for the task?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Okay, if you've made it this far, you're part of the end of the podcast club. Wow, that is good. That is so good right there.
Okay, look, comes from a lot of practice. Remember all the youth ministry stuff? Like that was a pretty big deal like a while back. And they were constantly doing it in the house and at youth and, everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I'm glad that you did it because there's no better way to let people know that they are valued than that sound, apparently.
Like a weird little blowhorn thing.
Yeah, I know. And we didn't have to hear John's this week. We heard it from you, which is so much better just because of that. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for making it this far. You are a valued listener. All of our listeners are valued. You're just more valued. We like you more. So thank you for making it this far. If you do have questions, we would love to answer those. You can go ahead and send those. Please send those. Next week on the podcast, we have Pastor Ben. Pastor Ben is going to be with us. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit those. Also, if you have not rated and reviewed the show, what are you doing with your life?
What are you even doing?
It's crazy. Like you need a life coach to help you, to help you discover
what is really going on there.
What is happening inside your heart.
Seriously.
So go ahead and rate. You can do that on the Apple Podcast Store. If you're a YouTube person, we love you too. You just can't do it there. So that's cool. But I am grateful for all of our viewers, all of our listeners, everyone who's with us. Final thought today is this. There are things in our life that we put way too much stake in. We have to have things in our life. We can't live amongst life with nothing, but we can't allow the things in our life to take a place that they were never meant to take. God is supposed to be in that place. And if we can get to a place where our trust is like Jesus declared on the cross, into your hands I commit my spirit, then we're living the life that we were created for when it comes to living the life in Jesus. So, so glad that you are with us today. You guys are awesome. We will see you next week. Love you. Bye.
Bam.